Hello and thank you for joining us for this week's edition of It's Your City. I'm Cortney Bloomer in our studios at the Brewery Arts Center with this week's guest, Carson City Mayor Bob Crowell. Thanks for being with us, Mayor.
It's a delight to be here, Cortney.
We have had a very busy summer in Carson City, and that's winding down now. And our reporter in the field had an opportunity to go out on the street and gather some questions for you from the citizenry of Carson City. Now, this is the first time we've done this segment, so we're really excited to bring in some voices from the community.
Good idea.
And showcase some different Carson City folks right here on It's Your City. Let's go to the first question.
Very good.
Mr. Mayor, do you like bluegrass?
I love bluegrass. I love all music, and you know what's particularly nice about that question at this time of year. Every August, the Mile High Jazz Band puts on Jazz and Beyond. It's really Ellie and David Bugley that help, but it's mostly a free month of jazz all throughout Carson City, and you know you get a chance to savor and flavor all different types of music. For example, you know, I heard a singer at the Bliss Mansion, the garden party at the Bliss Mansion, which was free. You bring out your lawn chair. And then I went to the amphitheater at the Legislative Plaza and heard some wonderful jazz there on a beautiful Sunday night, where you bring out, you know, have little snacks and things and listen to some great jazz. And then, you know, on the other side, I went to Otis Day and the Nights. You're probably too young to remember Otis Day and the Night.
Little
Motown, and they talked about, you know, they sang Shout for all the Animal House viewers out there. Well, and it was just a wonderful evening. And, you know, I'd like to think, you know, that all these things are well attended. I don't know how much the community knows that are really out there, because there's some really tremendous music and really talented performers. We have more talent around this area than really you can believe. And it's free. I mean, you know, it's put on free because the Mile High Jazz Band raises the money and puts it on. So, Carson City, if you haven't been to one of these, look at those because they're great.
Bluegrass and jazz and Motown and all different types of music, and there's a pretty full schedule. Jazz and Beyond is, of course, wrapping up, but stay tuned to the Brewery Arts calendar and at the Community Center. For lots more great local entertainment coming to Carson City.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think, you know, sometimes you look at I get the emails, and I'm sure hopefully a whole lot of people get the emails about what's going on here at the Brewery Arts Center. As I said, there's some remarkable local talent, but they also bring in some remarkable outside talent. I've heard some pianists at the Brewery Arts Center that were nationally known pianists out of the East Coast. One pianist, and you know, it cost me $15, but you couldn't get something like that anywhere else for under $150. Amazing. So you know that kind of, you know. So I encourage folks to, you know, go on the BAC website, go to Jazz and Beyond, you know, go to Mile High Jazz Band, and find out what's going on, because there's just a heck of a lot happening.
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor. Let's get another question from one of our viewers.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Bridget. Granted, I moved here when I was like 5, but I consider this place my home. And I was just wondering what the construction timetable is for the new bypass. Because while I'm excited to see it, I live down near like the Topsy Shopping Center. I noticed traffic's gotten worse, especially in that area up to Fairview. So I was wondering what the timetable is, if traffic will improve, or if there's any new flow, because there always seems to be a bottleneck around Fairview. And thank you.
All right, that is another great question. A lot of people are aware that the Department of Transportation has been hard at work down on the south end of town, working on getting this bypass complete. It's long awaited. What's the timetable for that?
Well, hopefully it's just in a few months. Maybe it's 30 days. No, actually, I think, you know, the timetable is early 2017. But I'm hoping, you know, we can maybe, if the weather holds, and, you know, that's kind of a two-edged sword because we really like the weather around here. But, you know, if the weather holds, it might get done a little early, but I think it's first quarter, you know, about that time in 2017. But, you know, it's interesting. They are working hard at it. And there was in the paper the other day about, you know, taking the fill dirt and pushing it up to the old, what I call the old sand pit up on.
Right, there was an article last week in the Nevada Appeal that they're going to have a conveyor belt going up the hill.
The conveyor belt goes under the highway out there and then up the hill. So there's no traffic interruption. All of the dirt that they're pulling out of there goes back to fill that old place there. I call it the sand, whatever. I don't know what they call it, but it's a parking lot. But the rideshare parking lot won't be disturbed, but the hillside there will be replenished is another word, I guess, for it.
So there's a number of projects that still have to be completed before the entire bypass can go in. Like we mentioned, right now the conveyor belt is happening, but eventually that connection is going to be complete all the way down to that Spooner Summit interchange there.
Well, I think that's what hopefully, and I think knock on wood, unless something adverse happens. By the first quarter of 2017, you will be able to go from the Spooner intersection to San Francisco, and I think you might hit 1 or 2 stoplights, period, the whole way. And that's not only a big deal for how we move around in the region here, and a big deal for our residents here. It has its impact on on downtown and things that we're looking at, but it also. One of the selling points of development in this community is the ability for intermodal transportation, because we're close to railroads, we're close to air, and with this freeway, we're going to be close to truck transportation. Those are big selling points for people who want to come to an area that otherwise just has a quality of life that's unequaled anywhere. So,
absolutely, and we're all looking forward to that roadway being completed, and of course the other construction projects that are going around town as well.
Yeah, and let me just end that question by saying, I've always been sensitive to the residents that live next to or near Fairview Drive, because they've been putting up with a lot of traffic, and the businesses there have been putting up with a lot of it's difficult to sometimes maneuver in and out of businesses there, and there's a lot of fumes and things. And when the freeway gets done, that will be relieved, and so my heart goes out to those folks that live and work around there. But I think once this freeway gets done, you'll be all the better.
That'll alleviate a lot of that
But we thank
congestion.
them for putting up with it.
All right, let's take one more question.
Okay.
There's a lot of unused land in Carson City. Do you have any plans for the plots of land throughout the city in the future? Yeah, there's a lot of unused buildings that could be used for other businesses, and they aren't being used up at all, which hurts our economy. Is there any plans for those either?
So the question is, there seems to be a lot of unused space in Carson City, and there's empty buildings. Actually, the space in Carson City, when you look at it in comparison to other jurisdictions, we are geographically constrained, and I will say that there is unused space, but there are things going on I'll talk to you in a minute about, but also on buildings. I'm told that the industrial air park is filling up. We're having difficulty finding the right size buildings for folks who want to move in here. So that's happening, and I've been told that 75 to 80% of the buildings at the air park are now filled, and the problem is getting the right square footage for people who want to come in. So that's happening. There's no doubt that there's some retail businesses, retail commercial, the areas that we could fill up, but hopefully as the economy continues to generate, that'll fill up as well. And on the open space, there are a number of things. One's on the books right now at the Schultz Ranch, where the old racetrack is. Matter of fact, I was just out there driving around last night. That's master planned or platted right now. There's a development agreement on that land for 400 homes. They're grading and turning dirt for the first 100. So that's 100 homes going there. And you probably read in the newspaper here about potential development of more homes going in near the airport, which I have not yet seen that come to the city yet. At least I haven't. But that's being talked about. And I will also say that just as of I want to say this last week, I talked to a developer who wants to develop 36 acres. And I can't tell you exactly who it was, but that's happening. The land is people are looking at that land, and we do want growth in the community, but we want controlled growth. We want quality growth. There's no doubt about that. But it has to be quality growth. And I think, hopefully that's what we're getting. Carson City has a growth management ordinance. I think it's important to remember, and that is you can't grow by more than 3% a year. And we haven't hit that 3% for years. Right now, Carson City has a build-out capacity of between 75 and 80,000 people. And with the growth management ordinance, I don't know the last time I looked at how soon you'd hit that when that curve got up there, but it'll be a long time. But it's a comfort to me to know that you're not going to get rampant growth. You're going to get controlled quality growth that your infrastructure can take care of. And it's pleasing to me to know, and I think to a lot of folks, that our infrastructure here in Carson City, we're redoing the sewer plant right now, and we're doing some things with the water system. But from a macro point of view, our infrastructure in this city is pretty well designed to handle maximum growth in this community, which is a big deal.
Absolutely. And as this growth is happening, of course, we want to keep in mind part of Carson City's character is some of that open space and
That's
our
right.
proximity to those recreational open space areas that are in the city. So we don't want to fill it all up.
No, we don't want to fill it all up. And I'm kind of guided on development issues. It's kind of maybe call it hokey, what do you want to call it, but I don't think it is. The city motto is proud of our past, confident in our future. And I think, that's a mix of saying, we don't want to, like you're saying, we don't want to give up, our past, but we also want to be prepared for the future. And I think that's a good way of thinking about, we want to know, where we've been, where we're going to go, but we don't want to, trample on either one. So that's kind of, I don't know who came up with that motto, but it's a good motto. So.
All right. It was a somber week. In Carson City. Officer Howell, of course, passed away as a result of a shooting, responding to a domestic violence incident. Carson City really came together in the wake of that incident. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, it's a terrible tragedy when you lose a law enforcement, police officer, any of our first responders. And I'm reminded, that our first responders are uniformed folks, our police officers, and our fire and others, but also our public works and dispatch, and those folks they are touched at the very beginning. And when events like this happen, it touches not just them, but the entire community. And I have to say that, as tragic as that was, when we rode into Reno and you see our residents lined up from the sheriff's office all the way to, they were really lined up all the way almost to Reno, to the event center. When you got in Reno, they were there and on the, it was heartwarming to know that people care about other people in this community. They care about our law enforcement. They care about our cops. And I think the word that comes to me is just pride in this community, because, and I'll just say, you see on the national news other places where there are issues going on, we don't need to get into them, but, when you see the outpouring of support, concern, caring, and it was just, I don't know if it's a right word or phrase, but it's emotional pride in our community. And I think the Nevada Appeal probably had it right in their editorial that they put on Wednesday, and that is, Carson City at its roots is a very close-knit community. And I think that's what we saw Thursday with the funeral services for Deputy Howell. Just amazing. I mean, I think there were thousands who lined the streets. And there were, I heard different numbers. There were thousands in the event center in Reno. That includes Reno people. and it includes, we had police officers from around the nation. I mean, I talked to several from New York, talked to some from Chicago, talked to some from San Jose, and as you and I were talking before the show, there were police officer representatives and law enforcement representatives from all around the state, it came together in a way that was spontaneous. I mean, and really that says a lot in itself. I mean, it wasn't something where it was highly promoted. It was these things, people want to know about it. It was like the candlelight vigil happened, 12 hours after Deputy Howell Carl was shot, and thousands came out to the Legislative Mall. They just came. They just came, and it's like on the, for the funeral, and people were just there, and my heart just swelled with pride, with that we live in a community where we're blessed with great law enforcement folks, and we're blessed with caring members of our community who want to make sure that we all live in a safe environment, and that we take care of our own here. And so, I almost tear up when I talk about these things, because I think it's heartwarming, and I think it's hard to find a word. Maybe awesome, but I think heartwarming is probably the most.
It was a touching service,
yeah. And the police honor guards, it was all put together. They put all that together. Was done extremely well, extremely professional. I asked the sheriff, I said, how does this all happen like this? And he says, Mary says, we just, each takes a different piece and we integrate it in. They had the right mix, not because I was there, but they had the right mix of fellow officers talking about Carl. And I'll just tell you, when I heard those officers talking, I did cry. I did cry.
We appreciate our law enforcement officers here in Carson City. We want to thank them for putting their lives on the line to keep our community safe every day. And here at It's Your City, we certainly want to express our condolence and our sympathies to the Sheriff's Department and to the family and friends of Deputy Howell.
You don't know how much that's appreciated. I mean, I met with some of the law enforcement folks just before I came over here, and they have their family, and it's a family of law enforcement folks, and I think, from the community standpoint, all the comments I see, the community standpoint is we are grief-stricken that we lost Carl, but we want the community, we want the family, the kids and the family to know that their community is behind them. Let me just say that their community is behind them. And that's every one of us. So, thank you.
Thank you for being here today, Mayor Crowell, and thank you to all of you for joining us for this week's edition of It's Your City. We'll see you back here next week.